Hello guys, Nero back. A lot of people have been asking about a build overview of my Deep Delve character for this league, the Molten Elementalist. So I thought I'd do a quick and dirty one take and quickly go over my character, some of my choices, and anything else basically. So let's get right into it. The POB for the character is in the description below, so if you're just here for the POB, go there. Other than that, another disclaimer. This build is made for delving, especially for deep delving. If you are mapping or planning to map on this character, I would highly recommend to just play the same gear on Trickster and go play Smite and follow someone like Sushi. Trickster is just way better for T17s. This is also not a budget build. My current setup is worth at least 5 or 6 mirrors. To start the build, I would recommend to have at least 2.5 mirrors, because the sublime fire alone is I think 1.2 at the moment. So below that you can't really run my setup and you would need to run a little bit other defenses. Yes, let's get into the big first question. Why actually Elementalist and why not Trickster? Because if we are looking at PoE Ninja, most of the Molten Strike guys are Trickster. There is 2% Elementalist, and this is people that have started rerolling into my build already. Yeah, the rest is pretty much Trickster. So why actually Elementalist? It's basically purely because of raw stat power that you get from shock combined with the golems and some damage reduction. Why the shock and the chill node are extremely good in Delve is because of how Deep Delve scales. Deep Delve has incredible amounts of monster HP, which makes non-damaging ailments basically not usable with any normal build without having any source of minimum shock or minimum chill. Because the Elementalist node got buffed to 25%, we only need 100% of non-damaging ailments to scale this to 50% shock. And this is, no matter how big your hit is, this is always 50% then on every single monster. And because we get already like 10% from here, we have 40% on the boots, we have some on jewel corruptions. We get to the 100% needed for the scaling to get to 50%. Similar, but not quite similar, is for the chill. But since the Elementalist Ascendancy node does not have any minimum chill, you would need some source of min chill. This can be Arctic Armor, if you can find it. Arctic Armor, when an enemy hits you, it gets chilled for 0.5 seconds. And this chill is baseline 10%. Same with Frost Shield. Frost Shield with quality is baseline, I think, 11% or 12%. And with some ailment scaling, this gets to a 21% chill at the moment. And with the Ascendancy node, this gets to 10% damage reduction. If you want the chill also during nodes, if you feel like you're not tanky enough, you can spec the Cold Mastery, where chills from your hits always reduce action speed by at least 10%. This can then also be scaled by non-damaging ailment effect to roughly 20% and just get you 20% on every single monster that you hit. I played with this for a while, but I've decided to swap basically those points toward the 3 golem nodes here to double up on my golems, but I will talk about that later. Yes, yeah, golem nodes. For the golems, only 2 are useful for this build. Lightning Golem for attack speed and Stone Golem for the global defenses. Technically, Flame Golem could be useful for damage, but Flame Golem gives AoE, and AoE is incredibly bad for Molten Strike single target damage, so I'm not using that. And also, as you can see, I have 2 and 2. This is very, very good for the uptime, since the golems actually do die quite a lot at around 5k what I'm now. So having the buffer of 1 being dead and having the respawn timer rolling just has the uptime has gone way up. I've played with 1 lightning golem for a long time and he was constantly dead and the buffers are not up for very much of the gameplay duration. So just adding this another golem for the 2-2 split made this very nice. Yes, last but not least, the Shape of Flames, 40% Fist of Fire. Since I don't have any other source of Fist of Fire on my gear, none in the implicits on helmet or chest, I only have from the Merc, which I'm gonna go over a bit later, the Calm's Binding, which is additive with this 40%. So a total of 65% Fist of Fire with 30k ES pool is way more than you ever will need for any fist damage in the game. So this is just very, very nice in general. So yeah, this is why Elementalist. Over the general gear first, I guess, before doing the tree. In general, this is an Ephemeral Edge build. Ephemeral Edge gives lightning damage from Energy Shield. This is why we're stacking Energy Shield and Int. Basically a very meta thing from Trickster already last league. Got a bit nerfed by 25% this league. Still very, very strong. Plenty of damage. A few additions or a few highlights of the gear. I'm quickly going over Ephemeral Edge, attack speed enchant with Resolute Technique Corrupt, and if you can afford it, also attack speed Corrupt, 7%. You want the max roll of 15%, it's very important, most important thing. The ES percent is kind of whatever, get as high as you can. For the helmet, helmet is a Crusader Hunter helmet, actually only using one Hunter mod, no Crusader mods. Crafted with fundamental fossil spam for double T2 int, and then via multimod suffix lock reforge chaos, you can guarantee a chaos prefix and then elevate the intelligence. So yeah, after you've done that, you then just craft spider aspect and then metacraft the ES to whatever you like. I stopped at T3, T1, pretty bad still. You can get to 530 ES, I think, pretty easily with a T1, T2. Costs like maybe 50 div to metacraft, not too bad. Yes, for the amulet, yeah, normal simplex instacking amulet for endgame. Before you can use a Great Wolf, you can use the new ES amulet maybe, or just a rare amulet, but this compared to a Great Wolf is I think like 25% more damage. For ES is actually pretty similar. Yeah, still a very, very big upgrade. For Anoint, Seoni's Ambition, by far the best Anoint in Delph. Don't let anyone tell you to play Molten Strike in Delph without this Anoint. This is actually incredible. Makes nodes so much more chill. So make sure you anoint this one. Shield. Yeah. This is if you have a mirror to spend on one mirrored item of the build, you should get the shield. Normal instacking, high ES shield. Yeah. Sun shield are very, very strong, especially the implicit scale, very, very good with the explicits. So yeah, just other than that, normal ES, int, double damage attack speed shield. If you mirror this shield, be careful, tell the guy to craft attack speed instead of suppression, because this build runs no suppression. So just make sure you don't get one with suppress crafted, but attack speed. Yeah, for rings, yeah, Molten Strike, so we need a Nimbus. For corruptions, you can look for intelligence percent, you can look for attack speed, you can look for flat lightning. I think this is the only three that's really useful. Second ring, this is actually the semi-budget ring, I would say. Shafts with int corruption. High budget, a little bit better, not a lot better, is a triple positive reflect temple mod helical ring with like temple mod int and all attributes reflected positive with a good multiplier. Beats shafts with int corruption. But if you can't afford that, because those are like 3+ mirrors, just get a shafts. If you can afford it, get a shafts with int corruption. Defense quality is better than intelligence quality, even if you have a 6% intelligence. So yeah, quality defense to 20. For the chest, it's a very stock standard intelligence, triple T1. Mine is like T1, T3, T1. I should really recraft this, but I can't really be bothered. Suffix, just int crafted attributes. For implicits, you're looking at as high of an implicit for Arctic armor buff effect as possible, since we are a sublime fire build. Arctic armor buff effect is one of the few sources of damage reduction to fire and physical, only 2 damage things we take. So buff effect, very, very good. Second mod, less damage taken per int. You can try to get 1 more breakpoint out of this, maybe. I think I would if I go for exceptional, but I can't really be bothered. Yeah, for the fracture, the Socratic strength gems is basically, I think, 6% more damage. It's the best mod you can get for Molten Strike. But yeah, it's definitely not needed, just good upgrade in the late game. For boots, boots, you're just looking for Warlock boots with Essence Strength into Int, Suffix Lock into Veiled Chaos, Unveil Ailment Effect, and then metacraft the prefixes. Best to do this, like you see here, on a fractured prefix base. Is not too expensive. You need the craft for chill avoidance, because we're not ailment immune, so we need to have chill avoidance here. Implicit's action speed, just for damage, and then you need any tier of the cooldown recovery rate of travel skills for the offhand setup for the movement. So keep that in mind if you want to use the bow setup for the Phaserun, which I'm gonna go over later. You need the movement skill cooldown. This is not just for fun. For the gloves, I went with Abyss Socket in the attack speed. I'm not a big fan of focus. Technically, you could run focus, drop the Abyss Socket, or drop the attack speed and just run focus attack speed. But I like the consistency of the normal attack speed, and I have 1 less button to press, so big fan of that. Yeah, those are kind of a bitch to craft. Fractured Abyss Socket is a bit easier, then you can spam attack speed essences until T1 int, and then metacraft the prefixes with Eldritch Chaos, and craft damage during any flask effect, or you can also go for triple T1 ES, also fine. For implicits, you just need the 2 additional strikes, and yeah, the more damage per int, lesser is fine. You would need to go 5-5 for 1% more damage, for like 90% increased damage, doesn't really matter. Yeah, belt, mage belt of course, corruptions on the belt, ES percent is very good, int percent is very good, attack speed is very good, move speed maybe is also alright. But yeah, even non-corrupted is also fine. Does technically allow you, I think, to drop 1 all attribute cluster for a intelligence cluster, but yeah, just a little optimization if you have not a corruption one. For flasks, since we're a sublime fire build, of course running a ruby flask. Yeah, move speed. Then silver flask with bleed and corrupted blood immunity, so we don't need it on any jewel, and bleeding is pretty much kind of a pain in the ass otherwise, since you don't run around the mana Pantheon. You just want the bleed immunity for the running, otherwise you will basically immediately die in deeper delves. Curse reduction, very good, because there spawn a ton of rares that apply random curses to you, especially on like essence fossil nodes. So curse reduction, very, very good. On a quicksilver, yeah, silver, quicksilver. That 4 flask is a bit of an open slot. Jade with evasion rating just pushes you from like basically nothing to 72% evade. With just this mastery, you get 1% increased evasion rating per 5 intelligence. This gives like 400% increased evasion rating nearly, which buffs the flask by a lot and just gives you a ton of evasion, which is good versus the shotgunning, gives you a bit more pseudo recovery since you don't take that much damage. Yeah. And of course the tincture, melee weapon attack speed, get a high quality tincture if you can. It's a bit expensive, but tincture quality is very, very good for DPS. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Let's go over the offhand setup maybe quickly. Running a bow. For shaper movement speed with +1 gems and dex. You need the dex for the dex requirement of the bow, which is 222, I think. Especially if you don't have all attribute clusters, like here. If you drop this one, it's already getting very tight with the dex requirement. But just dex movement speed on any quiver, and then dex +1 gems and move speed on a Marikev bow, then multi-modal support gems and targeted gems. Just linked with like a 20 Phaserun, enhance efficacy and power, automation and moderation. So doing node running, basically I'm done with the node, blah, blah, weapon swap, press automation, and then just keep on running until you hit the next node. Weapon swap back, attack, and run again. Yes. For the main gem setups, I'm running just 4 auras, blood and sand. Since it's Molten Strike AoE, it's just 16% more damage. Very good. Purity of Fire, since it's a Purity of Fire Sublime Vision build. Of course, we need the Purity of Fire. Arctic Armor, as I said, Arctic Armor, less fire damage, less physical damage, stable on Sublime builds, especially with buff effect also on the chest. Then an Enlighten. For a bit more mana, you technically don't even need an Enlighten, I think. So if you can't afford that for some reason, just drop the Enlighten. The mana regen of the Lightning Golem will sustain you together with the instant leech. It's just a bit of a buffer, I guess, when the Lightning Golem's dead. Yeah, and the 6th link, Molten Strike with Multi-Strike, Volatility, GMP, Slow Approach, Conk Effect. Slow Approach, Conk Effect, you need that on Molten Strike together with Adjacent Animosity and less approach speed. With those and Conk Effect and Slow Approach, you get, I think, 100% overlap or 90% overlap of all balls. Yeah, very good for the single target DPS of Molten Strike. Yeah, other than that, just normal stuff. For the golems, like I already mentioned, running Stone Golem and Lightning Golem, linked with Minion Life. Could also go for Meat Shield, that they're a bit more defensive. But the Golem buffs don't have any range, as far as I know. So it doesn't really matter if they run anywhere. Yeah, they respawn anyways, so. And the boots, I'm running Sigil of Power. Very important that this is level 3. This is the easiest breakpoint that you can basically get while still getting 1 stage per second. So I would run level 3, 23. And then run cast when damage taken, level 1. With Ink AoE and Intensify. Since Sigil of Power affects monsters standing inside the sigil, you want the area to be as big as possible and to basically cover the whole node. So yeah, very good for link, just automated, don't need to press anything there. Move skill, Frostblink and Whirling Blades. Frostblink is needed since we're running Natural Affinity to get rid of all of the Grasping Vines. Just Frostblink once and they're all gone. Yes, and Frost Shield, just a free slot. If you don't want to press it, don't use it. But Frost Shield is pretty good for, especially for chill application during boss fights. Gives you the min chill like I mentioned before. So just very good to run that. Yeah, and then last but not least, Sniper's Mark setup. Mark on hit, Sniper's Mark with enhance. Delve does have a shit ton of curse reduction, so the increased damage taken is basically non-existent. It is mostly used for frenzy charge generation. 10% chance to gain a frenzy charge when you hit the marked enemy. Gives you perma frenzy charges basically in all nodes. Yes. Right, then go over the tree pretty quick. It is split personality kind of tree. Since we're on the witch start and we need to path down towards point blank and precise technique, we're basically traveling whole right side. Picking up the golem node for a +1 golem and some buff effect. Jewel circuit here. Int, of course, make sure to click the correct mastery. The int per allocated mastery is actually by far the best one, better than the 5% attributes. And then triple cluster setup. 1 cluster with Calamicious for just some non-damaging ailment effect. And Bloodsend, Rage and Hit. Running a Natural Affinity like I mentioned, basically a staple in Delve. And then Purity Fire Sublime Vision. Here I'm running Watcher's Eye. Watcher's Eye, you need the 20% Purity of Fire mod, of course. And then very good mods are Crit-DR, I would say, is second highest priority. And third is Physical Damage Reduction, while affected by D-Term. Yeah, basically a very good triple mod. Determination, if you're asking yourself where does that come from, it comes from the Merc. Yeah, just traveling down, some ES nodes. Increased ES from Helmet, so just doubles the Helmet ES. CI, of course. Yeah, running Arctic Blows. This is basically a free point, a bit of a free one. You can either run this wheel or you can run Arcane Focus if you want to be a bit more tanky but it has less damage. For the Runecraft, I'm running +1 support gems. This is actually only good if you don't have multi-strike level 6 and GMP level 6. If you have multi-strike 6 and GMP 6, then drop this one and do some different pathing here to go over the int node, and then just get +1 frenzy more with this too. Yeah, like I mentioned here, the evasion mastery, very good for more evasion. Traveling here mostly for the non-damaging ailment effect of elemental focus and to get some more value out of the ladder of meaning here. Then yeah, leech wheel for instant leech, mark wheel for frenzy charge, 12 passive cluster, pretty much default one with ES effect int attack speed, 12 passive you either need attack damage while holding a shield or sword attack, still increased damage, both work, doesn't matter which one. Need one rare jewel with max fire res, int and energy shield, and if you can get also attack speed, you need one of those, otherwise you're only at 98% max fire. Then yeah, Bound by Destiny, only running the first modifier, the 15% increased intelligence if 2 Crusader items are equipped. This because of the in-stacking amulet is Shaper Crusader, and then I also made this Shaper the Crusader Hunter helmet to activate the Bound by Destiny. Yeah, Lethal Pride. There are not a lot of combinations you can go for here. You can click these two nodes, you can click the Frenzy Charge node maybe. You are looking for Endurance Charge on kill and for Intimidate. Basically the two things you want. This is the best one. There are I think 2 or 3 other ones that are usable. You would need to play around a bit with what nodes you can pick here. But yeah, try to get, I would say Intimidate is the more important one. Endurance on kill. If you have Endure on the Merc, he already has some decent uptime. Just gives you a bit more consistent uptime. Runecraft, yeah, reduced attributes in global defenses. Very good one, of course, since we're ES stacking. Because a ton more ES. Yeah, then puffing down here, like I mentioned, the reduced purge speed. And then another 12 passive cluster. This time one with all attributes instead of intelligence. All attributes just needed to get to the strength and to the dex breakpoint for the offhand bow, which has some more move speed. And other than that, precise technique, of course, point blank, of course. Yeah, and then here in the cluster, double split personality. For tattoos, I'm not tattooing int. I am tattooing all of the dex nodes. You need 10 stun avoid tattoos to become 100% stun avoid. And rest of the tattoos are movement speed and one time blind on hit. Alright, I think let's go over the Merc last. Merc setup, default Doriani setup basically. I was running a Perkles. So, let's go over the Dori first. Doriani, yes, you can run either max life or reduce damage from crits. I would say crit reduction is better on the Merc. He does get, the only chance he dies basically is getting one tapped from a crit, so should really get crit damage reduction here. Second most important part, the calm spending, like I mentioned for the fist damage reduction, being additive with the Elementalist one, just very, very strong. For corruption, you're looking for maximum life here. DTM effect is kind of useless, so I would go for max life here. Weapon, Kingmaker. This is also basically the reason why I went Earthshaker. Because of how Fortify scales, same as like the non-damaging ailments. In very deep delve, you don't get 20 Fortify. Even if you have Fortify on hit on the weapon, you're basically sitting in 1 or 2 Fortify all of the time. And the Kingmaker gives you 10 permanently and gives you culling. Very, very strong. So this is why I went with the Earthshaker for the D-term, for the Watcher side basically, and to use the 200x. Helmet. Any strength helmet with Malediction works. Best one would be Blood Price with Malediction Corruption, but those are very expensive, upwards of 200 to 300 divines. I couldn't be bothered to buy one, so yeah. If you want to make min-max, buy a Blood Price. Then, yeah, Doriani, of course. For the minus max rings, I'm running reflected helicals with recoup and minus lightning res and mana bricked, and I also have minus 50 life, which is actually very bad. So yeah, don't do that. To craft those, make, I don't know, somehow get lightning res and recoup, just these two mods on a helical ring, and then reflected. I would highly recommend to, if you have the T1 res with T1 recoup, run life catalysts and not resistance catalysts. You want as much recoup as possible for the Merc to survive in deep delve. He does get hit very, very hard, so just keep that in mind. Yeah, then reflect the ring, of course. Merc is at minus 215 for me. Running Defiance, I ran the Perkle's Toe for quite a while, up until 2k, 2.5k I ran the Perkle's Toe, and he still did not really die. But from then on, he started dying on harder nodes, and it was getting tedious finishing nodes with the Merc dead, so I just swapped to the Defiance. It is a like 20 to 25% general DPS loss to use Defiance over Perkle's Toe. But yeah, what can you do if he needs to survive? Make sure that the life gain is max rolled, and you want as little lightning resistance as possible to make it easier to hit the minus 200 on the Doriani. For the Anoint on the Merc, I'm running recoup. So yeah, recoup, just better survivability. Gloves are completely random. I'm running Chaos Res on the gloves, basically. You want max as much chaos as you can get. Life regen and regeneration rate. Should probably just use double chaos resist, so T1 plus crafted resist T1 with T1 life. But I bought those for like 50 C, so I couldn't be bothered to upgrade. The boots, if you have a Merc with Endure plus Determ, having cooldown reduction on the boots is actually very, very good for the sustain of the Endure spell. Of the endurance charges, especially during single target. So yeah, just cooldown recovery, one cold resistance roll with Defiance, decent cold resist roll should cap you on the Merc for cold resist. So yeah, I think the other skills on the Merc don't matter. You just want one with Endure and Determ, basically. The rest is completely whatever. I think that's it. If I did forget something, hopefully not, feel free to ask a question in the comments or something. Like I mentioned before, don't try to do the Elementalist stuff, I would say below 2 mirrors if you want to run the Sublime setup, since the Sublime is so expensive on its own. But yeah, of course you can downgrade the rare gear and whatever, and it will still be playable. But so, hopefully you enjoyed the video, the semi-quick build overview. Hope you have a great day, guys, and see you in the next video. Like and subscribe.